and they're making people think that there was like vampires in the woods. They were sending helicopters up, playing like where it sounded like ghosts and dead souls, like telling people, if you don't stop housing them, we're going to come back and get you, or we're going to haunt you and torture you. Like, you have to think, first off, this was back in the day. So like, I mean, you're probably really scaring like ignorant people. And I'm not saying ignorant in a nasty way. They're just like probably very easy to take advantage of. They're like village people, We're going to haunt you and torture you. We're going to haunt you and torture you.
You know what to do. Now's the time. Do it.
We're going to haunt you and torture you. We're going to haunt you and torture you.
This is your nautical lantern on the dangerous seas of darkness. Let's push off from the placid shore of the status quo and explore what's beyond the horizon. I am your host, BT, and this is Truth and Shadow, your podcast of the supernatural. Welcome to another episode of Truth and Shadow Podcast. Today we're going to begin a journey that will delve into the intricate puzzle of the human psyche. Today our guest is Nick from the Occult Rejects, and we're going to explore group affiliation. And the aim is to unravel the psychological threads that bind us and the hidden pitfalls that await those who find themselves within the grip of the complexity therein. At the core of our being lies a primal longing for connection and belonging. And it's this innate desire which drives us to seek out groups that align with our values and our identities, or for values and identities that we want to subsume. And it's all to provide us with a sense of security and purpose in this uncertain world. Yet it's paradoxically a quest for belonging that can come at the cost of individuality. And it's as we immerse ourselves in a group's collective identity, we may find our thoughts, opinions, desires subsumed by the dominant narrative. And it's this phenomena, which is known as social identity theory, and it highlights the tension between our desire for affiliation and this drive for autonomy, leading to a delicate balancing act between conformity and our own self-expression. Within the embrace of group affiliation lies this seductive allure of unity, a sense of belonging, a shared sense of purpose, a form of solidarity that binds the individuals together for a common cause. However, right below the surface of this illusion of cohesion, this iceberg of just wanting to belong, lurks the specter of group polarization. It's here that the collective mindset becomes increasingly extreme as individuals reinforce one another's beliefs and attitudes. It's fueled by the echo chamber of group dynamics. And this phenomena has been shown to lead to a dangerous escalation of conflict and division, or even an implosion of sorts. And despite those inherent risks, group affiliation can offer opportunities for personal growth and psychological resilience. There's groups out there like Alcoholics Anonymous and other anonymous groups that are specifically designed to bring in people and have the new identity subsumed that they can be a recovering individual. Not all group dynamics are designed in a cult-like behavior. And so it's by cultivating a sense of belonging in a healthy and in supportive communities that individuals can find strength and unity while retaining their autonomy and their critical thinking skills. Moreover, by fostering environments that encourage diversity of thought and open dialogue, we can mitigate those pitfalls of group polarization and promote a culture of empathy and understanding, a group culture that's designed for growth and acceptance and an outpouring of love, as opposed to an aim to further that dark ideologies that cults bring. And as we navigate the intricate landscapes of group affiliation, we should remain mindful of the psychological forces within ourselves and the communities to which we belong by harnessing the power of connection, while remaining vigilant against the pitfalls of conformity and the polarization we spoke about earlier. We can forge bonds that enrich our lives, empower us to navigate the complexities of the human experience with grace and resilience. Enjoy the show. Drawn like a moth to a flame, the occult weaves its mystique, an irresistible force pulling many into the uncharted territories where skepticism falters. This obsession with the unknown intensifies as one delves into obscure text, cryptic symbols, and paranormal phenomena. The lines between reality and the otherworldly blur, and the allure of the occult becomes an all-encompassing gravitational force, guiding each and every step down a shadowy path where the answers to life's most perplexing questions may finally reveal themselves. Today's guest has knocked at the door, has stood arms stretched wide, an ex-member of the OTO. He is the excommunicated esotericist, the circumvented ceremonialist, and the cult reject. Nick, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you asking me on. That was an amazing introduction, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great. Did very well.
So I brought you on because, like me, you have a history with the occult. I mean, you even went so far as to knock on the doors of the OTO.
Yeah.
Where I simply was like, yeah, this is the building. No thanks, man. I just turned around and drove off. Portland, Oregon at the time, the OTO lodge looked like some kind of ramshackle in the middle of...
Oh, they have one out by you?
Oh, yeah. It's up in Portland.
Oh, I didn't know.
I'm out in the sticks. You know, I'm about 30 minutes away from Portland. I don't bother ever since the riots to go up there. You want to talk about yourself for a bit and where you're from and all the awesome things that make Nick Nick?
Well, I guess a little bit of history. I mean, I grew up in Long Island. I'm from New York my whole life. Pretty much as a child, I guess at some point I started to believe in aliens and ghosts, or the possibility of. Even growing up out in Long Island, out in Ronkonkoma, because of having the lake out there was always stories about supposedly, for a while somebody drowned every summer out there, and they're always like tying it to some like story about the lake, about the Indian girl pulling a male down every year. So there was always like stories about ghost stuff, or if weird things are going on around us, it was always because, these houses are on Indian burial grounds.
Right.
So as a kid, I was already kind of like pre-exposed and like, to paranormal. So I guess, I started to believe, I guess, as a younger child, that there was things out there that we couldn't see or understand, but it existed. And as I got older, 9/11 happened. And I remember that when it happened, and hearing that it happened, I remembered very specifically where I was and what I was doing. I was at work, and we had a radio on inside the shop that I was working at. And I remember hearing the interviews with the fire department and the police, and them talking about explosions in the basement or on the bottom floors. And then by the end of the day, those never happened. And it was just the story about the planes.
Right.
So around then, I even started questioning, something isn't making sense, with what we're being told. And I quickly started questioning my own government.
Yeah.
And eventually, I guess later on down the road, I started getting into conspiracy theories. Because again, I already believed that there was possibility of UFOs, aliens, which I do think differently about now, and the paranormal. And, grew up around kids in school. Some of them who were into witchcraft or occultism, and they were a little bit open about it. So, I knew this stuff existed. And when I got into conspiracies, I guess I got very drawn to people like Jordan Maxwell, David Icke, Santos Bonacci, who was Tessarian, Michael Tessarian, and Mark Passio. All people like him who were very much kind of pointing towards the occult and secret society.
Right.
So, I got really interested in that. And I got into that and studied it or listened to other shows and just followed things that were very much towards that style. And at some point, I think I was just like, I'm chasing all these supposed names of these people who started these orders or these magicians and this style and that style and this stuff. But I really still don't know what the hell magic is or occultism is. So I was like, maybe I could start reading books and practicing some books. And I kind of had an idea. I didn't want to get into really witchcraft. It was more of a ceremonial magician, which, my opinion, I think there's a little bit more of I wouldn't say rules, but a little bit more of an outline or a design on how to do things, It's not very spur of the moment. I at one point with the books, I even started noticing some authors would quote Crowley's Liber-Resh, and it would be something would be off compared to if you went and used Crowley's Liber-Resh. It was not the same. So I had to even start questioning, I guess books, really can't go on them too well either. So I was like, maybe I can look into one of these places and try to join. And I did have a friend or two that I knew from the occult world that were in the Freemasons. And I had asked them about that because those things, they're all over the place. You probably don't have to drive more than 15, 20 minutes to find one. Unless you're in the middle of nowhere.
No.
But I was like, all right, that's probably the easiest thing. And a couple of my friends, one of them that was in the OTO actually, had even told me, don't even bother because you're probably going to have to wait forever to get into this stuff. They're if you join the OTO or Golden Dawn or something like that, he's you're walking in with the expectations of getting into magic and ceremonial stuff. He's and you go to the Masons, they'll think you're crazy until you're 15 degrees up or 5 years later. Then they'll start entertaining it. But when you're there in the beginning, they think you're nuts if you talk about it. So he's it's probably just really wouldn't be a place for you. And eventually I looked up the Golden Dawn. There was none around me, or at least none that I considered actual legit. But there was an OTO lodge about 20 minutes away. And I was like, oh, I guess that's really the only option. Huh. And, and real quick, too, even to mention this, I was never a huge fan of Crowley to begin with. Right. I think he was an occult genius, but I don't know, I'm sure some of the stories about him are true. I'll just put it that way. So, I never put him up on a pedestal. I just figured I was probably going there to meet other people that are into magic and maybe get a little bit of an idea of, what his stuff was about. And eventually, because these places aren't hard to find either, I just started looking for OTO stuff, and they do have a website that will show you where all their lodges are, and pretty much even give you any of their social media that they wanted to add to the site as a way to contact to check them out. I'd say probably about 90% of all the lodges, camps, and oases, they'll have either an Instagram or a Facebook or some sort of social media to where you could probably reach them as well, besides an email. So I checked out the one that was close to me. I checked out their calendar and noticed that they had a thing called the Gnostic Mass pretty often. It was every other weekend, almost every weekend. And I Googled that and realized that you could find that on YouTube. So I had watched it just to get an idea of what it was like. And it was a little weird, but it wasn't anything too outlandish for me. I was like, all right, I think I could deal with this. It kind of just looks like a very weird version of church.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I'll hit them up and see if maybe I can go. And when I hit them up, I did think it was sketchy right away as soon as they answered me. But once I realized the situation of the place, I understood a little bit. But even the day that I was supposed to go to the lodge to go to the Gnostic Mass, they said, email us back on the day of and we'll send you the address and the directions. Right. I was like, all right, no problem. So I mailed them back, and obviously they have a copy and paste form that they probably give everybody because it gives you directions from east, west, whatever, And even when it's telling you when you get there, it's there's a park across the street from the lodge, and there's benches and stuff. Just hang out over there. You'll probably see other people there waiting to get in, and when somebody's available, they'll come out and get you.
Right.
I was like, yo, this already sounds weird. But when I got there, there was actually a bunch of people hanging out, and they all looked like they're into goth. So I assumed they were probably in the OTO because, you know, if you're a magician, you have to dress like one too, or it's not real. So when I realized the situation, the lodge was actually like in a apartment complex type thing, an apartment building. They were renting like one of the big downstairs apartments. And the only way to get into the place is if you had a key. Regardless if you were in the OTO or rented an apartment there was a gated, you know, locked gate. So, I mean, that kind of, I was like, all right, I understand the situation now. It's not that weird. I went in, and I could say that if people were to go check out the Gnostic Mass on YouTube, it's actually going to be a little bit different than what it's going to be like if you go to the lodge. Because I guess, I mean, technically on YouTube, you're not supposed to show nudity maybe, but there is nudity in the Gnostic Mass. So that did actually surprise me a little bit when I was there. I was like, oh, well, I didn't know this was going on. I'm like thinking in my head, is this going to turn into like Eyes Wide Shut? You know, I'm like, yo, if anything else happens like weird, I'm getting looked at.
It can.
First thing popping in my head too was like blackmail right away too. And I mean, as much as I thought it was weird, I mean, you know, I stood around probably for about a half hour after the fact. A few people came up to me and talked to me. What brought you here? Blah, blah, blah. You know, how'd you get here? Whatever. I guess. And you try to talk to them just so they don't even feel nervous that they're surrounded by like 20 or 30 people that they don't know. So there was a few people that, you know, tried talking to me. And I did realize that like they also had classes besides the Mass. Even though they did the Mass like every weekend, they had classes too, like every other week, or like things on like history, or they do have like a lot of things going on. So I was like, all right, there's other things I can come and do here besides the Gnostic Mass all the time. There's classes and things I can learn from. You know, maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I could kind of weed out some of the more normal people here and maybe learn from them. And, you know, step by step, I got sucked into the, I guess, the idea of camaraderie and that I fit in somewhere and that I'm receiving love, that I'm being liked. Then I ended up staying there another 5 to 6 years and going through a few initiations and degrees. You know, and I do want to, you know, preface that the reason I even got into magic was never to manipulate people or try, like, never really to fuel my ego. It was more of like I believed that there's, you know, are people kind of manipulating humanity. And I just wanted to figure out my way to get out of that matrix and kind of just like have my own GPS.
Right.
You know, I just wanted to be happy and just, you know, have what I need and get by and be fine. It was never for like outlandish ego like type stuff, in my opinion. But I mean, even my ideas of magic even changed as I was in the OTO too.
Yeah, intense, man. The method of science by means of religion. Yeah, definitely can draw somebody. Well, you'd love bomb anybody in any kind of religious group. You can just draw them in deeper. Absolutely, that's normal.
I even think like that's even kind of what the initiation is kind of too. Like their first initiation is Minerval, and that's kind of like you're not even really a full member yet. You're like half in and half out. It's kind of interesting in itself. Even the Minerval degree, in my opinion, I think really, believe it or not, probably is the most occulted and most like deep secrets are actually thrown right in your face. And odds are you're not going to have any idea, especially if you're new. If you actually have had magical experiences, you'll probably see it. But if you haven't, which is probably going to be about 99% of the people in that order, or 98, you're not going to catch it. But even after like Minerval, when you're kind of like an honored guest, they already start giving you like, they'll start calling you sibling, even though they're not really supposed to until you take the first. Or they'll call you brother. I guess if I was a girl, they would have called me sister. Or if I told them to, they would have called me sister regardless, because they were like that there too.
Yeah, right.
But I could have been non-binary, and there would have been a place for me there. But you know, they it's just small little things like that, and then like all of a sudden, like because you stuck around enough and did an initiation, people who pretended you didn't exist 6 months earlier all of a sudden want to talk to you now. You know, so it's like almost like you start to feel like more liked and more accepted, and And I even do think with the initiations, they will even, at least up to the 4th or 5th degree, I do believe that they will for sure see if you're willing to do certain things. To go farther, I think, to know if you're someone that can be manipulated and used.
Yeah.
Because I do think at some point in that order, I hate to say it, I do think there is some sort of an agenda. And I think like the higher up you go, you're either going to be part of the agenda or part of the guinea pigs that are being used for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because that's pretty much part and parcel for anybody who's read any kind of conspiracy situation. They know that Masons, everybody's part of it all the way through Rosicrucians and everything. There's some kind of Rothschild manipulation going on at some level.
I actually think the OTO might be severe. Like, I'm wondering if that's just like a name for a different Rosicrucian order. I think it may actually like have some real deep hidden Rosicrucian.
It's possible. I mean, they have the ritual of the Rosy Cross, isn't it?
Yeah, the Golden Dawn, I think, came out with that's theirs. Which but and Crowley had a girl named Rose, and from like looking at a lot of his one of my co-hosts, Lisa, that is on the Occult Rejects with me on live, she lives in Texas, and some weird thing that I didn't even realize, which makes me wonder about like all of these supposed truthers that are in Texas as well. Most of Crowley's stuff that was like his work that was like written in hand, like a lot of his notes are all in this one library in Texas.
Oh, that's kind of interesting.
And the Vision and the Voice, there was like tons and tons and tons of like just folders of like his notes and stuff that is not even
in the book.
In the book,
right?
And he is constantly going on about Rose, but also in his book showing that it may not actually necessarily be his woman that he's talking about when people think that. And they're like, he's like just showing like Rose equals this, Rose equals that, gematria, like he's playing off of that. And I really, going by some of the things that I think he's ripped off Robert Flood. I think he's ripped off Michael Meyer. Just plenty of people that I think he's ripped off stuff from the past and made it his own, and new aged it, right. And people have no idea. I do question if there is also kind of like a hidden Rosicrucian influence in the order. Actually,
well, it's possible. I mean, Gerard Gardner, after all, created Wicca based off the Crowleyan system, so it's
he was given permission to open up a lodge under Crowley for the OTO, and he never did. I guess he probably assumed I'll make more money starting Wicca.
Yeah,
I hate to say it.
Scott Cunningham, right?
Because like Wicca, I do like Scott Cunningham. I do like some of his like herbal and crystal books, but I mean, in my opinion, though, I really hate to say it, Wicca to me, that's like Thelema Light. Like Thelema, you're already being psyoped and dumbed down. Thelema Light, it's just another downward spiral of ignorance with Wicca, my opinion. I hate to say it.
Yeah, I call it buffet witchcraft.
Wicca woo.
Yeah, and so we keep talking about manipulations and messing around with people. I mean, gosh, man, I've been researching the Tavistock Institute and the fact that they've been building off of. I tried to find the book that they used as their foundational. I had it pulled up and I must have swiped that window closed. Anyways, the American system, the American experiment really has been a design in this manipulation of the masses, a psyop from the beginning. And you've discovered and feel that a lot of the OTO, that's the Ordo Templi Orientis for people who are listening.
And something I do want to mention about them real quick is that in the beginning, I forget these guys' names. I think one was Theodore Roos, something like that. I know I should, since I was in the OTO, I should know the names better. But again, I was never really there to idolize people. I was there to learn stuff. The original guys were Masons, and it was an offshoot of Masonry. If you were a Mason, you could have actually joined the OTO and that started off at the bottom. You could have actually transferred over with a degree already because of your experiences from the Mason. And it wasn't until I really do question. A lot of stories about Crowley, I actually question, not saying that it's, well, I guess in some ways it would be a lie, but I do think there's occult ciphers or stories being told to you about him that I think people aren't reading it correctly, especially ones that he told himself, But, they say that supposedly in the Book of the Law, I think they had the original guys from the OTO had came across and was like, "Oh, he's exposing the secrets of our, secret society." And I think they got in touch with him, and supposedly he was like, "I don't even know where the hell you people are."
Oh, okay.
Supposedly. So I think eventually they meet up or whatever, and they're convinced that this guy's like a genius, and they hand over the order to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he knocks out a shit ton of the degrees. I mean, the initiations, the degrees, drops it down to 13 total with Minerval and 12 initiations instead of like the ridiculous amount. He even said there's a ridiculous amount of degrees and initiations for the Masons. He's like, it just doesn't make any sense. We can narrow this down drastically. I think, believe it or not, in the Masons, I think like one degree you can pass because you'll be like, yeah, I believe that there's other options of God out there besides like one religion. You know what I'm saying? Like if you believe like, there's Jesus and Allah and Buddha and all those things are possible, I think you get a degree for that.
Here's your merit badge for.
Yeah. It's just like we can cut some of those out.
That's what it is. Yeah. And I mean, but the ultimate drive of these secret societies has been the manipulation, the schemes, and
there's money in, I think, to be made as well.
Of course, there's money involved. Everybody, the fact of the matter is everybody can manipulate it. And the question is how much money do you have before you cannot be manipulated anymore?
I mean, you can go on GuideStar, which is like a site that if you're a religious company and you get exemptions, by law, I think may not be your most recent, but like by now you probably need to have like 2022 up. But like you do actually have to like somewhere it has to be proven that you're showing that, this is how much money you're making and this is where it's going and this and that. And, they have to show whatever proof what they're doing with that money if they're getting these exemptions. You can go on there and look at a lot of, especially the OTO and other, like, not the Masons, they'll actually show their money. But like, the OTO or other organizations, you can go on there and like look at it like a lodge. You can find the name or whatever, look it up and be like, wow, they haven't claimed any money in the last few years. Like that would be impossible for my lodge because if you have a class, people are paying to come in and see those.
Yeah.
If you're having an initiation, people are paying for that.
Right.
If you have members that are paying monthly dues, where's that money? It's not showing up. You're claiming you haven't taken in anything. Probably because it's all cash. It's all cash. Except for maybe the monthly, like the yearly stuff. But even a lot of the monthly dues, you could come in and just hand them cash.
Yeah. Anymore, you can probably just give anybody and you just cash. And then, where's the document anyway?
There's like money laundering in that too. The bit stuff. Not saying that the place I was at was definitely doing it, but I'm sure it's possible.
So let's talk about your favorite psyop, dude. Let's rock that out.
Oh God.
Like real, I mean, we're talking like Gulf of Tonkin. We're talking, it's a proven psyop, man. And then we could just lead into the fact that this is something that's going on.
Proven one. I'm trying to think, what was, well, I mean, I wouldn't say it's proven, but I mean, I do think to an extent, well, there's a few of them that I think have actually really made huge impacts. One I would say, like, kind of like, I would hate to say just the moon landing, but I think the idea of what's out in outer space is just a total myth. Or like story. I guess it hasn't been proved, but I think QAnon is a huge psyop. My opinion, when it even comes to religions or religious texts, I think to believe that you need another man to tell you what it means is a huge problem. So maybe you can even go back as far as that, which I mean, that could go back thousands and thousands of years, maybe. I can't say it's a proven psyop, but my opinion, I do think that is a problem, is when you allow other people to tell you what your religious experience should be like.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I mentioned Tavistock, and Tavistock Institute led me into Laurel Canyon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I do like actually like going back even to, I guess, JFK or like the hippie era.
Right.
I do think there was a lot going on back in the 60s, like a huge, I would say almost probably as bad as it is now, just in a different way.
Right, because
I think shaping and changing people's thinking.
There was a massive occult revival too that we had in that period of time.
Yeah. I would say about every 30 years there tends to be. I don't know if there's something up with that, but and it tends to even go along with like wars or I guess people being in discomfort.
every 33 years, right?
Yeah, no, it seems to be about every 30 or 40 years, which I've wondered, is there some sort of like cycle with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, dude, John Dee and Edward Kelly in the 1500s with Queen Elizabeth, and then boom, like nothing until the late 1800s, and Theosophy kicking off, von List and Erosophy. I mean, it's just like all these crazy theologies, if you will, are coming out, and one after the other. Crowley sets the stage and becomes the Queen's 007. If he's a spy, I mean, it's basically like CIA, man.
I also think, like, if you're the real deal, and maybe you have like questionable morals and values, and you kind of get known, I think the government would be interested in you. I just hate to say it, but no, I do think John Dee and Edward Kelly, you got to worry about them because they're scam artists in a sense too.
Right.
I do believe that they were magicians, like probably real magicians, like way beyond anything I would probably even screw around with or attempt. But they're also scam artists, and a big thing that was going on for a long time, and it seems around like, I think like the 16 to 1700s, maybe the 1800s, people just like used to get done or used to do, but like people even used to write in a lot of ciphers. Mm-hmm. And they would like send through the mail that would look like something normal if someone intercepted it. But then, like, if you used the cipher, then you'd understand what's really going on. But like, I would not trust everything at face value from Edward Kelly and John Dee. And I would not trust a lot of stuff. I wouldn't trust anything at face value with Aleister Crowley. Nothing should be taken as it is with that man. That's my opinion. Everything is going to be ciphered and deeply occulted. I mean, he can have sentences or words just because of the numerical value in it.
1947, the CIA's inception comes along, and it's, who started that? You just did an episode on guy who started the OSS. These are all obscured psyop.
Yeah, were you talking about the guy who was like over in Vietnam and the Philippines?
I don't know. I don't remember where he was.
Yeah, that was he was like before Michael.
Was that the vampire dude?
Yeah, that was like before even Aquino. So it's like, like even before, we always like to point the finger at that guy, which, I mean, he deserves it.
They're over here. It was the Philippines. Tell the story of the vampire story in the Philippines.
Well, at one point, like I don't know what the truth was back then. Yeah. Supposedly there was like, they were worried about communism, and a lot of people were saying that like some of the people that were being blamed as being communists were really just farmers.
Right.
But like they had these, I think they were called the hucksters, and people were trying to like house them or take care of them, and like they like hung a few people like up in the woods and like I think like stuck things in their necks and let them bleed out.
Right.
And they're making people think that there was like vampires in the woods. They were sending helicopters up, playing like where it sounded like ghosts and dead souls, like telling people, if you don't stop housing them, we're going to come back and get you, or we're going to haunt you and torture you. Like, you have to think, first off, this was back in the day. So like, I mean, you're probably really scaring like ignorant people. And I'm not saying ignorant in a nasty way. They're just like probably very easy to take advantage of. They're like village people,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, see, the thing is, when I read about they just take people, string them up, stab them, bleed them out, and then, it's a vamp. But the thing is, man, when you read about that incident, and then you go and you look at the Rendlesham Forest incident with Burroughs, and you start looking at that going, gosh, man, it really sounds a whole lot like a psyop, because the sounds, the lights, dude, we know today what lights can do to people. Flashing patterns can manipulate the human mind.
Flashing patterns and sounds are huge.
Yeah. And there's no doubt that you can easily just really, I tell people like this, it's like this. I believe I call them sinister forces, the unseen realm, right? I call them the sinister forces because, I mean, think about it. Are real. They're there. They really do stuff. And it's like these kind of people can be influenced by the dark people. And they've been around so long, they know how to hack the human brain, right? And so it's not that difficult for them to give technology, right? Give technology to man. They've been doing it since the beginning of time, to give technology to man on better ways to not just kill people, but really just ruin their lives. Which is what, you see about, like the Rendlesham Forest incident. The dude's like, he got some kind of telepathic coordinates, was like in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's like, great, what is he thinking? This is Rylith or something like that? He's going to bring up Cthulhu? It's just nothing in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. I mean, it's not like he was given codes to some magical place that, oh, look, that's where the UFOs are coming from.
I do think the UFO situation maybe is psyop in a sense.
We'll go into that. What do you mean? Tell me.
I guess the reason I'm bringing that up is because I think it's really getting rather prevalent now. Like, well, not prevalent that's a psyop, but I think it's like catching traction again. There's just a lot with. I just don't think it's like really like a ship with little green men in it.
Right.
I do think you could be, maybe making tears and like, crossing the. I think magic,
reality, yeah.
Yeah, I do, and I do think magic, in its sense, can produce visualizations or effects that people would think it's possibly UFO activity.
Sure.
I mean, Lamb.
Yeah.
Crowley Drew, that's a gray alien to me.
Yeah. If any listeners are listening right now, just Google Lamb, Lam. Look at it. It's a drawing by Aleister Crowley. The thing is at the time when he drew that, there were science fiction style stories around kind of describing non-human entities similar to that, but it's like far and few between. You would not expect him to have come across that particular science fiction. He was so busy doing stuff with Thelema and the OTO and the Gold that he didn't really care to read science fiction like that. And it's just not as common as it is today. And so if you Google Lamb, not only that, but dude, he, if AWAS was even real.
Yeah. Oh, I question if that's really just the Alice in Wonderland syndrome. Yeah, my co-host, Lisa, wants to eventually try to tackle that whole situation. She thinks that there's a good chance she can prove it was really more of like him talking about like scientific.
Well, that would make sense. That would make sense.
With iOS. Believe it or not. Yeah.
The exploration of the human brain probably is the real final frontier, if you think about it.
You ever see that pose that he does with like this?
Yeah, the common photo.
Yeah, I've posted pictures where it's like that. To me, that's he's imitating the part of your brain, depending on which cross section you're looking at it. There's a lot of stuff in occult symbolism. I actually think, believe it or not, is referencing your eyeballs in your brain, and that's all what determines your reality and how you react to it.
All of the standard standings. So, if you were to do the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram or the hexagram, you stand in different postures, and all of those postures are designed to be something. It's yoga, man, right? All these things, they're designed to open.
I'm glad you mentioned that,
right?
Because I don't think people realize that. Like, in these rituals, you will be making certain postures, god forms, or grades, sometimes they'll call them, or signs. You have the NOx, you have the LVX, you have Crowley's when it comes to like Pan and stuff. And then, like you said, the hexagram has the LVX formula. You got the Kabbalistic cross that's used. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to rituals that people have no idea even exist.
No, yeah. Psychopomp is a serious and real thing. The intention of manipulating the human, that's what I say. That's hacking the human mind. And that's designed on purpose.
I even think it's possible with some of these rituals. I think you're even dressed in black to represent the pupil, and I think what you're doing is actually showing the change that may be going on inside your eyeball when you actually have a magical experience.
Well, open up the pineal gland, etc. That's why there's a white star on the hood. That's the pineal gland.
You know, it's funny. Oh, too bad you don't have. Yeah, you don't. You're not showing the.
Yeah, I don't do video just yet. I mean, that's
but
something that I'm working towards in the future, of course. But yeah, that's the yeah. He's showing the star that's on the hood of the.
Yo, you know what I find interesting too? There's no mouthpiece.
Right. Exactly.
If you're in the Astra Argentum, which I wasn't, but I bought this robe off of somebody who was and made them for Astra Argentum guys. I came from Spain too.
Yeah.
But I mean, I came across the dude because of being in the OTO, and I bought a. They kind of look like
Right.
They kind of do look like you're like almost like an executioner or
Right.
something, like you're about to chop some dude's head off or hang someone. But I was like, I'll get this. I'm gonna look like a magical ninja, and it's just gonna make me even a better magician after I spend money on this stupid thing.
Right.
But I do find it interesting. There is no mouthpiece on these, and they're not supposed to be. And like the hood isn't a normal hood that's like attached to it. It's like, because people couldn't see it.
No, you have to.
It's very close. If you put a point at the top, it's very, very close to the KKK.
That's right.
Honestly,
that's right. Because there's no mouthpiece on the KKK hoods either.
Which, in my opinion, is a cult order in itself. The KKK, so it makes sense why maybe why they don't have the mouthpiece also.
It's like the unicursal hexagram. That's the hexagram that Crowley ended up really making popular. He probably pawned that from somebody else, but
he did. Yeah, that wasn't originally him.
Yeah,
I forgot the guy's name, but they come from something.
If you raise it up a notch onto the tree of life on the Kabbalah itself, on the Sephiroth, you lift it up. The cross goes over Dalet. It goes over the hidden Sephiroth.
Yeah, a lot of people think that
that's the pineal gland.
That's where like the star ruby, one of his rituals, the star ruby. So a lot of people think, and I do think I think you're a little bit up the tree more when you use that.
Right.
And yeah, that fits in that area.
Right.
Like you were saying.
But I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, like, psyops are designed to hack the brain. It's designed to make you a Stockholm syndrome, ultimately. I mean, they want you to be so messed up that it's like, no, this old dawdling man is completely normal. He forgets his stuff all the time. That's normal, and you get defending just stupid things. And it's bread and circus, bro. Yesterday, as of this recording, yesterday was the Super Bowl or the Swifter Bowl or whatever the heck that thing was.
Oh God. I'm so tired of hearing about her.
I tell you what. And that's for predictive. When you get as many people as you can to watch a program, you cannot think of another show in the United States or the world, because it's all over the world, that garners more audience and more people watching than the Super Bowl of the here. And so where else would you do predictive programming?
I wanted to post this morning, but I was like, I'm not trying to trigger too many people on Instagram.
Yeah.
Monday morning, but I was like, yo, did you ever think there's a reason why you can't shut up about Taylor Swift?
Right.
There's a reason why you can't stop posting about her, regardless if it's good or bad.
Right.
There's a reason. Like, stop even talking about her. Don't acknowledge her existence anymore, and that ends the problem.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Right.
It's like, even if like I really try not to even get into it too much on my own show now, because like I even think like it's just like I'm just aiding the problem because I'm bringing her up.
Right. Yeah. We just continue the issue, right? Yeah. Didn't mean to trigger you.
Oh no.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I think it's to make a good point, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's what it is, because everybody's now talking about a specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's werewolves, it's vampires, it's zombies, it's Swifties. I mean,
depending on what comes out of her mouth, it could change millions and millions of people's minds or view on something. that she's at that point to where she could probably do that. May not have to be extremely blatant, but she could start tiptoeing people into a certain mindset if she wanted to.
Oh, easily.
It'd be no problem.
Easily.
No problem.
I hear there's a whole magic system that's kind of developed off of this. Yeah.
She could easily say probably one or two sentences, and you'd have most of the right. That's how good she is.
Oh yeah. All she has to do is
or I should say, like, I don't know what to call them, the conspiracy Q-tard, Trump-tards on the internet.
Right, the Q-tards. Well,
yeah. But I mean, even nowadays, I even feel like the whole like truth or conspiracy community really is getting out of hand. I think so.
Well, it's pareidolia, man. It's always looking for a pattern that might not actually be there. I mean, it's not as real. I mean, the thing is like when we say something like, look, the CIA does psyops. And it's like, okay, give me evidence. All right, the Gulf of Tonkin that pulled us into Vietnam. That was a CIA op. Laurel Canyon.
I mean, they admit to MK Ultra. I mean,
thank you, MK Ultra. Laurel Canyon. That's your favorite psyop, isn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say I forget that it's like, it's actually they've admitted it. But yeah, I would have to say that's probably my favorite one to talk about, especially because there's always
just go on, talk about it for a minute, man. You got some time.
I mean, I do think. I think if you really kind of look at the situation that was going on with World War II and even prior, I would even say look at like maybe 10 years prior up until then. My opinion, well, first off, I don't think publicly from the news or whoever, these people that tell us what we're supposed to think, we'll never know the truth about really World War II.
Right.
But I mean, I would hope it's quite obvious to most people, maybe not all the people.
Or even World War I, man.
Yeah, but I mean, when it comes to like World War II, I think that was blatantly occult with the symbolism, especially from Hitler's side.
Right.
And all the things you hear about Hitler now, I mean, it's like known he was into that. So like right there and then you have to question how things were handed to you and shown to you. But if you were to, I think, even look at that whole situation prior and up until it, I mean, there's even things with Long Island.
Yeah.
We had Nazis here.
Right.
Before World War II.
I mean, we set up a base down in California.
Yes. We had a camp here that just up until a few years ago was told it was illegal for them to only allow people with German descent to move into that area.
Oh, no.
So like, I mean, there was even, funny, 33 Nazi spies busted out here before World War II. I mean, they were all over the place. Like they had the UN actually was out in Long Island and out in the city around that same time, which I find interesting. But just going through like, I think if people would really pay attention to what was going on with MK Ultra, what was going on with the United States and our camps, and if you were to look at Italy and Japan and just look at our relationships with these people, and then eventually what happened after World War II, where we took people from Unit 731, which was also Japan's concentration camp killers, and then we took Nazis from Paperclip. But like, in my opinion, I think between Germany, the United States, Italy, and maybe Japan at that time, maybe still going on now, I don't know. I do think there was like a huge, we're all part of something. Like, I do think sometimes some people are the people in the public eye to see how something worked out, or we have to give a reason about why something crazy is going on. But we're really part of that. And we're going to be using whatever information they gathered from what they're doing. And then we're going to implement it in our own different way in this country and see how it works on the people here.
Yeah.
I do actually think that all of this is all connected and we work with them. And it's just one big, massive, test on humans. And I think going back again to what I said when it comes to occult symbolism and never being told what's really going on, you have, as soon as Ukraine started popping off, you see Nazi symbolism on their stuff. And you see on tons of news channels, when it first started popping off, a lot of times when news channels will show you videos, they will show you who they got it from, if it's not theirs. A lot of the video footage was supplied by Azov. Azov Battalion has a SWAT sticker on their flag. You cannot believe the videos they're giving you. If a magician is handing you videos and telling you this is what's happening thousands of miles away from where you live, don't believe it.
Plain and simple.
Don't believe it.
Dude.
So what's been going on then, I don't think ever stopped.
Right. No.
And I think MK Ultra was all a part of all of that stuff in a sense.
Yeah, there's you had the Montauk Project there. I think that was up New York, wasn't it?
I thought that was actually, I could be wrong. I thought that was actually out in Montauk, Long Island.
Yeah, it might be Montauk. Yeah, that's where the old radio station was.
There was a lot of weird stuff. I mean, we have like the Brookhaven Labs out here. Tesla.
Right.
Tesla was going to build one of his things out here too. I mean, there's something up with Long Island also.
If there's anything you just want to, about you for a couple minutes, where to find you, stuff that you got planned, going on, so on.
Oh yeah, all right, yeah. I do have a site that I'm working on, and that should hopefully be out probably around the middle of the month. It takes like a couple of days for, like, even when I go to like drop it or say that the site's good to go, it can take a couple of days for it to drop. But I'm hoping by like the 19th of the month it should finally be live. But I do have the Occult Research Institute organization.org that will be coming out, and that will have like a bunch of different types of topics. And I think at this point there might be like 13 or 14 different contributors, and there'll be things on there like if you have tarot, symbolism, grimoires and manuscripts, signatures of life, which is more of kind of like occultism and science in a sense, or showing occultism with like biology and all sorts of weird stuff. Gematria and numerology, mental manipulation, crime, paranormal, astrology, Kabbalah, sacred geometry, personal experiences, art. And then there's like even books and audio, and just like a spot where we kind of put up other old occultists or people from back in the day that might have had kind of an impact on occultism.
Right.
We have some stuff about them that you can learn, but hopefully that should be dropping soon. Everything's free on there. It's just for people to learn. It's really much more of like a blog style type of site. It's not going to be like social media.
Right.
But yeah, it's going to be there. Like, this is for educational purposes.
It's the occult
really, like, our own personalities probably really won't be showing up too much, which I think is a good idea. But I'm looking forward to doing that, having that drop and see how that goes. I'll be adding tons and tons of stuff myself eventually as well. I'll plug that, and I guess, I'll plug, my other shows where people can find me at as well. I have the NY Patriot Show. I have the Occult Rejects, which I think you mentioned before. And I do have Spiritual Gangsters. I do forget to mention a lot, but I do co-host the show. And we do Clown World Weekly, and that's on Tuesdays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Tuesday. And we kind of basically just spoof and talk about the news. Right. Or like weird news articles for like the week.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just like, it's kind of just having like jokes, but there's some interesting stuff, and sometimes we cover things you really didn't hear about that is kind of weird. So do that too.
That's cool, man. Sweet.
But I think, for me to like get into anything else, one thing I do like to, this is a really weird way to, I guess, to end the show, but I guess one thing I do want to say, like when it came to magic and with my experiences, there's like a lot of stuff when it comes down to symbology and ways of thinking about magic. It wasn't until I had an experience where I actually thought that I do believe I have crossed the abyss, and I have had that experience.
Right.
It wasn't until that happened, until a lot of things started to really make sense. And I started to realize that there was a lot more deeper meaning to a lot of things that I thought very basic about. And, another thing, this is why I also think it's very easy for some people to have no problem manipulating, doing horrible things to humans, is because, in my opinion, if you have a true, real, magical experience, you are kind of slipping your soul out of your meat suit and going somewhere else. Right. So I do think, in a sense, there is a death to the flesh. And if you're willing to take that chance every time you want to push yourself pretty far, if you're okay with killing yourself probably in a few seconds, maybe milliseconds, you have no problem doing other crazy things to other humans that you have no attachments to.
That's right.
But that's one thing I'm trying to kind of push a little bit more, because I was like a little iffy or afraid to start off my show with it. But when it comes to magic, I do think there was a lot of symbolism in the eyes and the brain, and and death is technically a part of it.
Right. Sweet, man. Well, thanks for coming on my show, Nick.
Of course.
Thank you for listening. This is a free podcast based upon the value for value model. If you find value in this, or any episode, you can return that value by liking the show, subscribing to this channel, leaving a review, or sharing with a friend on your social media accounts. You can also donate on my website. Thank you again. This is BT for Truth and Shadow Podcast. You are the light in the darkness.
If you're okay with killing yourself, probably. You have no problem doing other crazy things to other humans. That you have no attachments to.